Hi there, freelance friends. Welcome back. Thank you for joining me again. Today, I'm going to talk about something that is a concern for many freelancers out there, and that is health insurance as a freelancer. Health insurance is one of those practical realities that freelancers can't avoid. Unless you're lucky enough to be covered under a partner's plan or live in a country that provides universal health insurance. Here in the US, when you work for yourself, you don't just lose the comfort of a steady paycheck, you also lose employer-provided benefits like health insurance. And figuring out how to replace them can be overwhelming. When I left my full-time job to pursue freelancing, I did take advantage of the COBRA coverage as long as I could. For those of you who aren't familiar with it, COBRA lets you continue with the same health insurance that you had through your employer, but you pay the full premium yourself, both the portion that the employer was paying and the portion that you may have been paying as a co-pay. Typically, COBRA coverage lasts for up to 18 months. I know that there are some special exceptions. However, they did not apply in my circumstances, and I have been told that without an extenuating circumstance, they do only last for 18 months. Now, at the time, I did not think that COBRA was a cheap option because it was costing me about $650 a month. But looking back, it was actually a good deal compared to what I pay now. It was also an excellent plan. I had comprehensive coverage, including dental, and a very reasonable deductible. But honestly, I wasn't sure what to do when my COBRA coverage ended. Luckily, I had the time frame that I was covered under COBRA to figure it out, but it was not easy to figure out how to navigate insurance as an independent professional. I think it's because I had always been covered either through an employer or through my ex-husband's health insurance. So it was really uncharted territory for me. But I did my research and I learned that I could look at health plans on the state that I live in's health insurance marketplace. I did not qualify for any income-based subsidies, but there were still plans there that I was eligible for. But when I looked at the plans, I found that they weren't great. I also investigated at the time, after hitting a stumbling block at the state site, I looked in to see if there were any professional organizations or associations that offered group health insurance for freelancers, since group plans are obviously often more affordable and have better coverage options than going it solo. I learned that some industries, like writers and artists, did have group plans through unions or associations, but I did not have any luck finding anything specific for trainers or learning professionals. If there is something out there, please let me know. I'd love to know. I checked with a few organizations and some of the freelance networks that I've told you about on previous podcasts, but at the time, none of them offered group health benefits. I've got to say it was a little discouraging because joining a group plan would have been a great way to reduce costs and simplify this whole very confusing process. So at that point, I decided to reach out to my health insurance carrier, which at the time was Blue Cross. That was the insurer that I had through my last employer. And I asked them if I could continue with a similar plan to what I had directly. I explained that I couldn't find a comparable plan on the state site, and that's when they told me that not all of their available individual plans were listed on the state site because they had to meet certain criteria to be listed on that site. I did not know that until this representative told me on that call. So luckily, the representative walked me through a few off-website options that were more in line with what I'd had before. But I have to admit, I did experience some rather serious sticker shock. I was looking at plans that were somewhat comparable to mine. That does not mean that they were identical. They were somewhat comparable or maybe a little subpar to the plan that I had. And out of the options that the representative showed me, the cheapest plan was in the $700-something range, and the most expensive plan at the time was in the $900-something range. Now, this wasn't the most expensive plan that they offered, obviously. It was somewhat comparable to what I had. And this was all several years ago. And just to bring attention to the fact that these plans did not include dental coverage. Also, the deductibles on these plans were higher than what I had been used to. I was also very aware that I was fortunate to only be insuring myself. These were rates for me, an individual. My children are covered under my ex-husband's health insurance, so that takes a huge financial burden off of me. I can only imagine how expensive it would be to insure a family as a freelancer, because the cost of family plans can easily double or even triple an individual rate. I do feel like that's one of the biggest challenges that many self-employed parents face when they go out on their own. It's an important consideration. In the end, I decided to go with a mid-range plan of the options that I was shown. My thinking was that having good health insurance is important, especially as a self-employed single person. I didn't want to gamble with the lowest cost option, knowing that medical emergencies can happen at any time, knock on wood, and the security of a more comprehensive plan felt worth the extra cost to me. Now, another important thing that I think aspiring freelancers should know is that you may be able to deduct your health insurance premium on your taxes. Now, it's not like you're going to, get the money back, but it is a little bit of a help at tax time. If you're self-employed and you're not eligible for coverage through an employer, including a spouse's plan, so I'm in that situation as a divorced person, I don't have the option to go under someone else's health insurance plan right now. So that means you can usually deduct your health insurance premiums. It can still make a difference at tax time. I still wish that there were more affordable healthcare options, but at least this is something. Now, with this all said, I am not an expert in healthcare or taxes. I'm just sharing my personal experiences and what I understand to be true. Health insurance and tax rules can be complex, and they change frequently. So you should always verify all your options with a licensed insurance agent or a qualified tax professional. So freelancing can give you freedom, but it also means taking full responsibility for things like benefits. Health insurance may not be the most glamorous topic, but having the right coverage is one of the smartest investments that you can make in both your health and your business. And honestly, as freelancing becomes more common, I really hope that better health insurance options for independent workers becomes available. There are so many talented professionals like us working for themselves now or wanting to make the change to work for themselves. And I personally think it would be great to see the system evolve to better support that growing part of the workforce. If you found this video beneficial, please like and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. I hope to see you back on the next episode. Until then, take care. Bye-bye.